All right, we live.
Sit over.
Welcome. This might be Risky Podcast, episode 1. And the panel, introduce yourself, starting from the left. Jimmy.
Jimmy, native from Buffalo, New York. You know what it is.
Indeed. To my right, Sean.
Good evening.
I apologize for his background, going through something right now. Corey.
Yo, what's up? It's Corey, Louisiana's finest.
Indeed. Andre.
This is Andre via Erie, Pennsylvania. DMV's finest now.
So let's get right into it. First topic of the night. So if a woman has a child and she's on a dating scene, does that decrease her rating and or value? Jimmy, you can start.
I guess it depends on the individual, but for me, not necessarily. If she's taking care of home, it's all good with me, right? So, most people might look at that as a deterrent, because they consider it baggage, but I guess it just depends on the individuals. That's my take on it.
Respect. Dre, how about you?
So honestly speaking, yes, I think it does decrease a woman's value. I mean, I think it's all personal preference, whether you want to be with somebody with a child or not. But ultimately, it does decrease your value. Just like if you're a guy and have a child, decreases your value. No matter what kind of, if you're the best dad or greatest guy in the world, I think your value still decreases. It depends on what somebody's looking for.
So now, just to be topic focused, because the ladies and the guys aren't mutually exclusive. So strictly for a woman, in what way does it decrease her value?
Well, I mean, as a guy, you have another responsibility. If you're not a guy who's looking forward to have kids right now, then yes, that's not somebody you're looking for. If you're a guy who already has probably 2 or 3 kids, you might not looking for a woman who already has another kids for another mouth to feed as well. So it just decreases that pool of available bastards that the woman's looking for. Well, not looking for, but actually seeking. So,
okay, kind of a safe answer, but I'll let it rock. Corey, what you think?
Well, I would say, any less than desirable trait decreases your value. It doesn't necessarily make you undateable, but it does decrease your value. So I would say, yeah, I think having a kid definitely decreases a woman's value. Okay. I think some of the reasons that Andre mentioned, the reasons why, you may not want to have an extra mouth to take care of. You may not want to, may want to start your own family from scratch versus having like a ready-made family ready to go. But yeah, it just kind of depends on the dude. Some dudes don't mind it. Some dudes would. Well, I think it definitely decreases the value for sure.
Okay. Sean, what you think?
Kind of piggybacking on what Dre said, it depends on your flavor. I mean, if he doesn't know our value for a woman that's decreased by having a kid, who are we to judge that value to quantify that? I don't know. Is it less probable that a woman has better odds of getting the man of her dreams if she has a kid? Yeah, sure. But that's kind of a natural selection of things. I don't know if that decreases her value or not.
So if there's hesitancy between dating a woman because of that variable, wouldn't that just by definition increase her value?
Yes.
I mean, yeah. And so for me, I'm personally not dating a woman with kids, and I have kids, right? Obviously not in my current circumstance, but because the return on your own kids is low. Like you hope that they take care of you when you get older, But what's the return on an investment for a kid? It's largely a liability. So now I have to take on another man's seed, which even has a lower return on investment, and it's still the same liability. So if I have a kid and a lady has two kids that I'm dating, now that $800 I had set aside for if you celebrate Christmas for my kid, now it gets divided by three. Like I'm just thinking of it practically. So is that too
If you're
far
talking
fetched?
about
Does that make sense?
if you're talking about a currency return for a kid, then that's it kind of defeats the purpose of what you value in kids to be around you for. Kids cost, all kids cost. If you add another one that costs more, sure. How do you measure a return if that kid loves you more than your own kid does?
That's fair, I
You
guess.
can't measure that. So kids are. If you, it depends. That's
Why
why I
do
said
you
you
think
can't really
about
say
kids like
anything
they're
about
investments,
value.
man?
Yeah, I'm
Well,
gonna say like it all depends what value, what does value mean to you? What do
Right.
you actually value? Right. I mean, we're asking, does it decrease their value? But I mean,
That's what I'm
if
saying. If you want to bring up monetary statistics for how much it costs and all that, like you don't have kids because you have money to throw around. You got kids because you want a legacy, somebody to succeed, somebody to
but
love you when you get old, somebody that you have raised. Those things you can't quantify.
but see now that's where our community goes is a little bit irresponsible because there are a lot of burdens that come with having children, and oftentimes we don't consider those. And in our community, by and large, we just having children. So I think that's something you have to consider.
Yeah, so what demographic we're talking about though? We have to
Right.
be realistic with the demographic we're talking about. Like, so if you're talking about the top 10% of folks, then top 10% of men, then necessarily it's not going to be necessarily be a burden as much as somebody who is living minimum wage and have 5 and 6 kids. That's something different than a guy who has a high 6-figure job and taking care of kids, right? It's like it's a different circumstance depending on what socioeconomic status that you're in, right? And then also, again, we go back to value. What do you actually value? Do you value family? Do you
Right.
value having your own kids? I mean, that's another thing too. Most guys want to have their own family. They want to take care of somebody else's kids, right? So we got to think about that as well too. Like, what kind of mindset do you have when you're dating someone?
So what if you're a guy that can't have kids, right? And you're looking for, somebody that already has kids, right? To have that opportunity to raise someone else. Right. It's situational to everyone's one's being. So I
Mhm.
mean, your value is different, from mine to the next person. So
Yeah.
how do
I,
we describe value in that scenario? Right? Because
okay.
what you just said was based on your situation. You already got kids. You're not trying to find another woman that already has kids and have to raise hers as well as yours. So like if we're throwing situations out there, right, we're gonna be extending this book forever,
Yeah.
because everyone's predicament is different.
Yeah. And that's why I tried to ask it generally, but it's hard to look at it objectively sometimes.
Right.
Um, Let me clarify the question, and Corey, you can go. Her rating. So if you're rating a woman, would her ranking or rating decrease? Um, Auntie Samuel said that you lose 2 points if for every kid. I call
Yeah,
it.
I tend to kind of I tend to kind of agree with that. You know, yeah, it's a for me, and I think in general, I think men view it as a deduction. Like if you a 9, if I see you at a 9, and then a little kid come running behind you, like now you probably like an 8. Like you're not quite as high. As I was probably about to go with my move and come over there and approach. Now I'm hesitating. Now I'm like, let me think about it.
So at what point does a kid become involved, right? Because what if you find a female that keeps the kid away, right?
Right.
Until your situation is in a better place, and then she decides
That's,
to.
that's not realistic.
And it's
I'm
not
just
fair.
saying,
It's also not fair.
right,
She
right.
totally hid it from me. If she totally hid that from me in the beginning, I would consider that dishonest.
Yeah.
Now, 1 second. So, Sean, I'm gonna mute you until it's your turn to talk. Just unmute yourself because you got some feedback from driving.
Okay.
All right. Oh, sorry. Continue. I
Well,
think.
we were just saying that if she kept the fact that she had kids away from us, that would be dishonest, and I think that would be like a deal breaker for me. If I found out like at some point way down the road.
So is it her job to tell you, or should you ask?
It's definitely her job to tell me. Like I don't go around asking every woman I meet, hey, just out of curiosity, dude. Like you know that's the issue for men. So go ahead and bring it up. Like don't
Be a
wait.
casual conversation that never, gets the topic
Negative.
never get addressed.
Well, that's like a different topic conversation right there, Jimmy. That you talk like. I mean, so when you're first getting to know someone, like the first date or first conversation that you have, I don't think necessarily do you have kids is something that you ask a woman. I think a woman asks a man that all the time on one of the first questions that they ask. I don't necessarily think a man asks a woman, "Do you have kids?" One of the first questions that you ask. At least, I don't think that's was something that's typically asked on the first
It's not typical
conversation.
Right?
Or a guy to a woman.
I don't know. I may disagree. Now, depending on how you're dating. So if you're dating a woman and you've met her on social media, you probably can already do some of that investigation.
Correct. Yeah.
And then
Definitely.
you get to the table, right, and she running late. You know what I mean? And she, you may know, hey, what, I noticed you always go outside when I call you. Like, what?
Right.
Nature. So I think it's a pretty, and especially at our age, right, being the higher end of the millennials, right?
Right.
34, 30, 35, 36, 40 people usually have kids. So I think
Yeah,
probably.
you can expect that step.
Mm-hmm.
Expect that step in front of that title. I mean, at this point in time, right? It's rare to find someone our age that don't have kids,
Yeah.
right?
That's true.
Because some of them already been through relationships previously.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's tough. It's tough.
I think really where this really comes into play at is like when women are like on the borderline. Let's say like the minimum you would date is a 7, and a chick is a 7, but she got a kid, and then it's like I don't know, now
It
we
drops into a 5. I get it.
yeah,
That
no,
matters. That
nah,
matters. It definitely
I get
matters.
it.
right. If
I
she a
get it.
9 with a kid, maybe you like
I can probably set that up. You know what I'm saying?
Still
Right.
tough. That's still tough. Beauty and everything, man. Come on.
Definitely the
It's
Beauty
not
and
everything.
everything.
This is true.
Yeah,
This is true.
sometimes that shit is risky.
This is facts.
Indeed. We lost Sean Gross, but he'll be back certainly. Dope topic, interesting discussion, and I think we could probably go on and on. So, applause, fellas. Definitely great feedback. Hopefully, somebody can learn from it. Next topic.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you. That's fair. All right. So, next topic. I don't know if everybody's seen it. I know we grew up on Superman. So his son now is older. I believe he's like in high school, out of high school, and he's actually a bisexual superhero now. So essentially, we've turned Superman gay. Corey, we'll start with you. How do you feel about this?
I'm definitely not here for it, man. I think it's for one. I don't even know why it's necessary. Like honestly, I never even thought. Like I don't know that our superheroes need sexuality of any sort. Like they really just here to fight crime, and I mean, I don't know that we need to sexualize or bring sexuality into that realm. I'm good with them just fighting each other. Batman versus Superman. They don't need no love interest for me. I'm cool on that. But people hate to hear it, but I think there's some sort of like a gay agenda sometimes, man. Just like constantly trying to push that onto us so we can kind of like try to normalize it and make it more accepting. And I don't agree with it. I don't think it's necessary.
Understood. Dre?
So I didn't really delve into this topic when it came out. As you guys all know, I don't really do superheroes or like that. I'm not really into the comments and things like that. But talking about sexuality in general, I think Corey had a really great point when he said that I don't think superheroes should be sexualized at all, which I don't think they should be. I understand the rationale behind giving a superhero being bisexual to give everybody representation, because people see representation through other mediums. So I understand that part of it. So I really don't have a really dog in the fight in far as this. They can be gay, they can be straight, whatever, as long as they fight crime. That's all that matters to me, right? So I don't really have a huge issue with that at all. It doesn't bother me. I know we're talking about superheroes, but we can go. Football players, right? We talked about the guy Naismith that's in Raiders. He's having a phenomenal season. Nobody even talking about sexuality now. It's not even a topic of conversation at this point in time, because he's playing so good, and he's being productive, right? So his sexuality has nothing to do with his performance on the field. I think it's the same thing with superheroes. If we talk about in that realm, the superheroes, right? Long as he is ridding the nation of evil, then he should be fine, right? If he is going home with the man, or she's going home with the woman, that doesn't matter at all.
Put him in the fucking bedroom. Get him out of here.
Sorry. Okay. Jimmy, what you think?
It's risky, man. I truly don't have a dog in the fight. Do I care for it? No, not really. I think it rubs a lot of people the wrong way because it's outside of the norm. It's outside of what we're used to. Right.
So what's norm? I'm sorry to cut you off, Jimmy. When we talk about, you said it's outside the norm. What is norm?
Outside of the norm from why everyone is speaking on this situation, right? We're the norm for society is men and women in these type of scenarios. Whether it's action figures, whether it's movies, once they start, throwing this into something that, we're so used to being a certain way, everyone gets the idea of the gay agenda being pushed, right? Because that's what everyone just started to talk about, because we're not used to it. Some people are uncomfortable with it. Some people don't agree with it. Me, I truly don't agree with it, right? Because it's not what I'm used to, right? We didn't see that previously in Superman or any other superhero comics, but that's the state of the world now, right? It's like inclusion. For the longest, we didn't see our representation in TV shows for Black people, and now they're trying to. It's tough saying push, right? But that's the way we see it, right? Sometimes we feel like it's being forced upon us, right? Let's take something that we knew wasn't there before, and now we're going to add this element into it. And they're doing what they want for it. They're getting buzz. They're getting the publicity, right? They know people are going to feel a certain way. we've been talking about Gruden all week, right? With the topics he's been addressing in emails, right? When it first came up, for the tire comment on the Black gentleman, right? It was just kind of written off, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was still able to coach on Sunday. He even gave that bull-faced lie saying that I don't recall writing that in an email. But as soon as that other topic is brought up, he faced more repercussions, right? More people got upset about it. So there's a lot of people upset about it. It doesn't bother me much because honestly, I didn't watch or pay attention to comics growing up. I do enjoy the movies, right? Because it's action. But so that's the only reason why I say I don't truly have a dog in the fight. Is it something that I care to see, put it in front of my kids? No, not really, right? So, but one thing for me, it's like I don't have to let my kids watch that, right? I don't have to be upset about it. I'm not going to be pissed about it.
But that stuff is starting to appear in all shows at this point. So like, what are your kids going to watch?
You're absolutely correct, right? I get what you're saying. It's going to be tough to control that. So that's what I'm just saying. Like for me, if I could, control it, then I don't have to let my kids watch it. But at the end of the day, you're right? It's going to continue to be pushed, right? But are they going to feel the same way when they start seeing more blackface? I mean, when you see these all black TV shows, black movies, they get upset about that, right?
Correct.
But,
So
white people, no, there's an extra shit, but
correct. So I mean, I don't want. I mean to hijack the show
no, you
here,
good.
but I mean, you mentioned a couple of things, Jimmy.
Let's just let
Oh,
Sean
okay.
get his
Sorry.
take, and then we can have a little round robin discussion if you don't mind. Sean?
We gotta unmute him.
Yeah.
No, he get it. I thought he got muted.
Sean, you on?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
To your point about sexualizing superheroes or comic book heroes, that's kind of kind of a late argument in that regard because Superman is affiliated with saving Lois Lane, who's a woman.
They're not having kids.
It's just every episode he's saving her. She screamed, she cried, whatever. He's saving her.
So you're saying
That's
that was
damn distress, man. That's damn some distress.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is every movie he didn't pick her up romantically and flew away in the fucking sky. I mean, it's already been sexualized. It's already. Right. It may not be in the favor that we agree on, or maybe somebody else's other side fence and all that. But Superman has been sexualized, always has been. So I mean, the argument of wanting to see your superhero sexualized in that way is maybe not in our favor of what we want it to look like. So now it's off-putting. I mean, if we be in the hundred, like they get just as much out of that as we do, right?
So what about Thor? Is Thor like sexualized? Like, does he have a woman that he conquers? The Hulk. I mean, there's other superhero characters that doesn't necessarily have a love interest.
I mean,
again, correct me if I'm wrong. Again, I don't follow comics like that.
Some movies, it's kind of pushed, right? Is that the whole love idea is pushed? I'll say for majority superheroes. I mean, you're going to see it in movies because they say sex sells. So you add that side of romance into the movies, to draw attention. So I'll say superheroes have always been sexualized, right? And I don't think anyone was disagreeing with that. Corey stated that early. What he said was he doesn't believe any superhero needs to be sexualized in any manner, right? Whether it's straight, whether it's gay, bisexual, regardless. So I don't think there's a disagreement that this is something new, right? We all are familiar with how any movie, TV show, kid show out there. I mean, you look at a lot of these high school shows now; they're sexualized, right? They're including every aspect of society in it, right? So there's no disagreement there. I think the idea of this being pushed, that's where a lot of people are getting uncomfortable with it, right? So that's my take on it.
So I think the key about them being sexualized is people want to be able to identify. Also, when you go to the Marvel premieres, it's all grown-ups, right? Quite honestly. And even some of the jokes that they tell, only adults get, right? And that's how they can kind of make a broader audience, right? But I think Corey's point is well taken with agenda. For instance, you have always maxi pads, right? Where they took off the female silhouette because they wanted to make it more inclusive. But it's a maxi pad. Like it's a tampon. It's for women. So even if you are transsexual and you become a woman, you're not gonna have a period. But people are stretching so far to not offend that even tampons had to be made unisex. You know? And so I think this agenda is going quite far because I be careful comparing it to us because we could never hide that we were black. right? We came here in chains, and that's a huge difference, right? Because just in the late '80s, or excuse me, the mid '80s, being gay was still in the science books as like a disease, So that's much different from like what black people went through, so on and so forth. I just wanted to make sure we make that distinction. And who knows, maybe they thought we were a disease too, right? But just in terms of like history and what was happening, I think I'll be careful to compare that to the struggle that our people went through.
So to be clear, when I made that statement,
Yeah.
I'm definitely not making any comparison. The only thing I'm stating is what society will do, right? We see this all the time where, you know, um, they take our situation and compare it, to that movement, to that community, to what they're going through, right? And it's we all know it's not the same, right? We got black people that's in that community. So is their struggle doubled, because they're, dealing with being black as well as being gay? I mean, so I would never make a comparison, to the black struggle and to that community struggle.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And to clarify, I was clarifying not because I knew you were saying that. I
Okay.
didn't want anybody to think you were saying that. That's all.
Yeah.
Now, Dre, I know you had some rebuttal or devil's advocate.
Well,
Um,
I did. I mean, you guys kind of mentioned it right now. I mean, you're saying you shouldn't compare the two, but the rhetoric that's being used is the same. Um, uh, like Jimmy was saying, like we weren't. I forget exactly what you said at this point now, but about how we are viewed on TV. Like it's not something it's not part of the norm. Like how gays aren't seen on TV, so it's like part of the norm. So I asked that question: what is norm? Like, what is normal? Right? So gay people have been gay their entire lives. So to them, that is normal, right? To us, it's not normal. It's not. To them, it's normal. Again, I mean, you might disagree with that or not, but to them, it's normal. To us, it's abnormal because we don't necessarily agree with that, and we don't go in that direction. But they still need some time. They still need some type of representation. I don't necessarily agree. If we're going to talk about current events, I don't necessarily agree like how. Hang on, let me say this properly. I admire how strong their movement is because they can galvanize and make things actually happen, right? Unlike the black community is not able to do it in the same manner, and it's because some of the things that you talk about had it is so much more deeply rooted in us than I guess this agenda is. Maybe I could be wrong about that. We can talk about that. But their movement is gaining a lot more ground than say, for instance, the black movement, right? As far as representation and inclusion and being seen as equal, right? So there's something to say about that, right? And I mean, we all know about the Dave Chappelle special that just happened.
What is there to say about that?
I'm saying, talk about the Dave Chappelle episode, Dave Chappelle special that just happened. He talked about because white people are now gay. White people are also gay. They're not just black. That's why, right? So that is the bigger issue right there. Because white people they can see themselves as this. They can't see themselves as black, right? But they can see themselves as gay because they actually are gay, right? So that's why I think that agenda is moving a lot further and a lot faster.
yeah, it's certainly expedient because white people cannot be black, but they can be gay,
That's correct.
which is a shame. Just in terms of how quickly they were able to effectuate change and how hard they worked to make sure we weren't successful in effectuating change.
There you go.
That's the part that's pretty hurtful, to be honest. But yeah, gay Clark Kent, it's a thing. Dope. Last topic of the night, which is a perfect segue. Chucky, aka John Gruden, aka Y2 Banana Split. If you don't know who John Gruden is or was, good riddance. He was a football coach, ESPN commentator. He got $100 million contract for 10 years to coach the Raiders. once Los Angeles, then Oakland, now Las Vegas. Opening of the new stadium, first time this year where they actually have fans. Huge deal. He was top ranked on ESPN as well as a commentator. So in 2011, he had some emails. He made some disparaging comments about the physical characteristics of the NFL PA executive director, DeMaurice Smith. Something, in terms of his lips being large, right? Which is a characteristic many, so-called Black Americans, African Americans, whatever you prefer, have. And so when that initially came out on Friday, he was kind of like spanked on the butt, so to speak. And then as they dove into his emails, he had similar comments against the homosexual community, the LGBTQ community, excuse me. In which on Monday they fired him. So it seems as though because the first strike was against a black man, it was, I don't want to say swept under the rug, but it wasn't taken in such a high regard. And then once the other emails were introduced and uncovered, he was fired in what it seemed like a matter of hours. So, just based on our panel, based on being black men, how does that make you feel? Why do you think that was? We'll start with Andre.
So we kind of already like press the topic a little bit on a previous topic, but I want to clarify some things. So his firing came after, like your first part was correct. Yes,
he didn't get fired. Stop there. So clarify. He resigned.
I'm sorry. He didn't get fired. Correct. He resigned.
I was smiling because he didn't get fired.
He resigned. He resigned.
Opportunity to resign. Right.
There you go. Correct. Yes. So he also had a couple other things that came into play as well too. He talked about the commissioner of the NFL, called him I don't know if I come the F word. Okay. He also shared topless photos of. Hang on.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah. He also shared topless photos of the Washington football team cheerleaders as well.
He called the commissioner a bundle of sticks.
The derogatory term for homosexuals that starts with an F.
Okay. Because the actual death was a bundle of sticks, but we just want to clarify for the audience. We don't want to get pinged by YouTube, right?
Hate speech, yeah, no hate speech.
Right, that's what I'm saying. That's why I didn't say the word. So, yeah. So it's multitude of things that happened after the fact. However, your point is still very valid. When they first talked about DeMaurice Smith, nothing really happened to him. He still coached the NFL game, and he was still going to keep his job. He had no reason to resign. He didn't even really give an apology to it. He just said, for people I offended, and that was it. He didn't apologize for the community that he offended or anything like that, right? So he just apologized for the words that he said. So being as a black man, I mean, I'm highly offended, right? I mean, we go back to the Dave Chappelle special about the LGBTQ community being so upset about him, and he's saying it's not about you, it's about white people. And this is the exact same thing he's talking about. It is not about being gay or transsexual or queer. It is about the color of your skin and how much power you have. What that comes with. So I'm highly offended that nothing actually happened until he actually included the LGBTQ community.
Right.
For me, man, I got a lot of different thoughts on this one, man. I'm kind of torn on some things. So the initial comment, I understand there is racist undertones in it, but DeMaurice Smith does have some big lips, and you know what I'm saying. Like, he might have just been making an observation on that.
No, Corey. The thing about he said, I say this about everybody who lies. He said, I say this thing about people who lie.
He said he had like rubber lips, the size of
He said that about people who lie, not because he was black. He said because he lied. But the thing about it was, if you read through the statement, He didn't say DeMar Smith lied in anything. It wasn't about lying. It was clearly that he was black in saying this, right?
Well, the brother got some big lips. That's all I'm saying. So I don't know if I can call him a racist for just having two eyes. As far as the the rest of the stuff or the whole situation goes, yeah, I mean he was allowed to coach after just the racist remarks came out. And it seems like once the homosexual, or excuse me, the anti-homosexual remarks came out, then they escalated the punishment and the severity of it, and he was forced to quickly resign. So yeah, I mean, you see the difference in the power that they have in our society, and how immediately like they will get people canceled, fired, whatever you want to call it. And, we as black people just don't have that kind of power.
Jimmy?
Situation is crazy, right? I mean, how everything came out first, the investigation had nothing to do with Gruden, right? Somebody came across the initial email and released that, and, like I said earlier, he written it off as, I don't recall, writing that, that's not me, right? And everyone knows, he knew he wrote that. But you could for gentlemen like him, or whatever you want to call him, devil, your words.
Goddamn devil.
Goddamn devil.
They don't feel anything about it. He felt comfortable sending these emails from his personal account.
Nope, it was a company account. It was an ESPN account.
Email address, right?
Mm-hmm.
Someone that was, Bruce Allen, that was working for the NFL at the time, right? And we all know when you work for these companies, these emails are archived, right? For backup purposes, for situations like this. I believe it was a workplace investigation. So when this one first came out, that's not me. I don't have a racist bone in my body. We hear this all the time. Statements I made, they written it off as I'm not racist. That had no racist connotation to it. Individuals are just perceiving it the wrong way. So obviously, someone that was close to the investigation didn't like, the fact that nothing happened to him, right? And I believe at the time, based on all the news commentators that were talking about it, the biggest concern, with him being fired, he wasn't working for the NFL right now. At that point, when the emails came out. So how can you, discipline somebody that wasn't working for your organization? These was his personal comments, right? But at the end of the day, it's a business, right? You got players in the locker room that's the same color as this gentleman that he made the comment about. How do you expect those men to go to work every day and look up to you, take orders from you, and just going about their business? You can't. And then, nothing happened. And then someone decided to leak additional emails, right? So they sent it to Al Davis, I believe. He got the emails that night, and then they go into the office, they talk, and he's given the opportunity to resign. So is it really a punishment for him? He's able to walk away from the situation unscathed. He still got money from the last 4 years, just build a nice ass
That's definitely punishment.
Is it really? I mean,
he was owed another $60 million. $60 million is punishment to anybody.
I'm sure he was good from the ESPN deal that he was working before,
But it's also the shame, though, right? Like you have to go around with that public shame, and like now your future employment is going to be affected by this as well.
He never gonna work again.
Never.
Yeah.
No, not in NFL.
Not in NFL. No, not in NFL.
Not in NFL. You're absolutely correct about that, but he's going to land on his feet. They always
do. And where?
Unless the full content of those emails come out, which they're petitioning to release them now, but I don't know, man.
I don't see him ever working again, even like in the college arena. Yeah, I don't see.
There's a college that's going to pick him up. They want to get the
No.
recruit.
And do what? And recruit black players? No, like you can't win college football if you don't land black players, right? And you wouldn't even risk it for this guy.
Think about all these black
He's not a
foreign
players
who advocated for him, though.
Huh?
All these black foreign players who advocated for him after they found out what he said about DeMaurice Smith. Yeah. Even before they gave comments, like you had Randy Moss, like you had people on national TV advocating for this guy, saying.
I think in general now people always try to take like the positive route, and they don't want to say bad things to the camera on them. That's not how they really feel. Come on, man. Randy wouldn't send his son to go play with John Gruden now. Like no black people are going to go to his school if he landed at a school.
Yeah, if the situation right, I'm pretty sure some black kids will. Right, if they get the opportunity, these kids coming from these poor environments, poor households, if no one gives them an opportunity, and you have Mr. John Gruden working at this school, and they give you a full ride, somebody's going to take that opportunity. That's without a doubt.
It'll be a PR nightmare. But if you look at the other coaches who this has happened to, like even on the college level, Art Browse and like Baylor.
That's different. Art Browse, it wasn't racist.
No job then.
It was about security of kids. He didn't have any. He didn't have any control of his program. Like women were literally getting raped on his watch.
Okay.
At the school, like, so you can't hire him at your program, right? But even though he was still getting close to program through his son, they were having his son to be close to him as well too, though. Like, I mean, so there's still
his son's offensive coordinator, but his son wasn't the coach, so his son can get a job. He hasn't gotten a job since then. He hasn't worked since then. He's probably not gonna work. If you look at other coaches who are around these types of scandals or around scandal in general, like in this day and age, it's just too big of a PR nightmare, I think.
Rick Pitino's still getting jobs, bro. Rick Pitino's still getting jobs.
Is he?
Yes. Yes.
So let's do this.
Rick Pitino's still getting jobs, man.
Hamp, what's your take on the situation? Right? Because I know we kind of bombarded the conversation, with our discussion. So how do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a shame. I don't think he fell from any type of grace, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter as much as it should when he's talking about, the black man as he was, regardless of what he tried to say about it. And unfortunately, our movement started with George Floyd, where we really had some tread on the tires, but it kind of fizzed out, So now it's kind of more back to who cares about these, YouTube flaggers and baby. Who cares about these niggas, right? They done went back in the dumps, back to being the bottom. I mean, we might be slightly over the Hispanic community, but now they don't have to worry about us anymore. They appease us a little bit with the stop hate, no real action, right? A couple Asian Americans get killed, and I'm saying a couple more than that. We dying every day, and you see they got a whole crime bill, right? Against if you harm or injure or violence against Asian Americans, they got a whole crime bill passed over the course of 2 months with just a few incidents. So it's just a damn shame. And this man is rich, so what does falling mean, right? He needed 10 years, 10 million a year to even go coach. So obviously, he needed a huge compensation to even go do it. So how much is he actually struggling? And the population in our country is predominantly white. So do they really care? Do them rednecks in Oklahoma really care about what he said? Do they really care about the LGBTQ community? So if this cocksucker moved to Oklahoma or North Dakota, they'll probably throw a parade for him. So I mean, it's a damn shame. He ain't gonna suffer much from it.
What in your opinion would be adequate punishment for him or for someone in this type of situation?
Well, yeah, it's only so much you can do, right? When people are wealthy. I mean, Jay-Z said, "I got 5 passports. I'm never going to jail," and that wasn't because he gonna be on the run. He got too much money. So, I think he should have gotten fired. You know what I mean? I wish they would have fired him, right, and not allowed him the grace to walk out and resign. You
So
know,
who fired? NFL fired him?
NFL or no, the owner of the Oakland Raiders.
Well, it depends.
Oh.
So I guess that probably would depend on his contract, though, right? Because sometimes when you fire people, you owe them the rest of their money. When they resign, you don't owe them the rest of their money.
But where's the integrity, right? That man should have been fired. They should have walked him out. You know what I mean? With the police behind him, or excuse me, like security behind him, like when people used to get fired from.
And then risk having to pay him another $60 million.
You're a billionaire, right? But I'm just saying,
No, nah, you can resign.
But you don't think, them being a multi-billion organization, whatever they are, they didn't have a clause in his contract that would
Yeah, so they could
They probably say detrimental to the team, though. But
right.
that happened before he was. That happened
Right.
before he was on the team, though.
When
It
did
didn't
he
happen
start
while he was there. It's before the contract was signed.
When did he start coaching the Raiders?
2018.
2018. So the email timeline
It says to 2018, yes, but it was before he. It was before he started
who
having
knows?
contract. Though.
Who knows if there's more, right?
But at the end of the day, you risking yourself into a legal situation where he could now sue you for wrongful termination, and then you owe him $60 million. Whereas you just let him resign, you don't owe him anything.
I guess what it is though, at least it would have exposed him for what he really is. You know.
He already got exposed, I think.
Yeah, I think to us, but he just walked off into the sunset. Like I don't know if you guys watch this show, Morning Show. Do you guys watch that on Apple Plus?
No.
Yeah,
It's but like when people are rich, like the guy on the show, he was like, raping, I guess for lack of a better term, the women on the show. And now he just live in Spain somewhere in a big ass house. Like, yeah, he's kind of living, underneath the radar. But I mean, wealthy people at this juncture, to your point, maybe Corey, how much can you punish him? Because he doesn't have to work anymore.
Right.
But Corey, he took that as, that was a downfall for him because he wouldn't work again. But he's not hurting. Like Dre said, whoever said it, the man walked off into the sunset, right? Because at the end of the day, once he leave that building, all his buddies that feel the same way, they're sitting there supporting him, right? It's like, don't worry about that, blowback, you're going to come back. Something, they're not held down forever. Like
you understand these people like egomaniacs. You got to think about if you've been in these type of positions for your basically your entire life. He grew up in football. Like he's been around football since he was a little child. You know what I'm saying? So if you've been doing this your entire life and you have this ego now, I think Hamper or Corey said that he left a commentating job to get 10 years, $10 million a year, $100 million. So like he had to be forced out of that other job he had to come back and coach. Right, so like there's a certain amount of ego that each one of these guys have, and I mean that hurts them, right? Like I mean not financially, obviously no, right? But we don't understand the other issue that's going to happen in his life, right? I mean, listen, I don't feel sorry for the guy, I don't feel sorry for him, right? But I'm just saying, like you never know what they're actually what they're going through in their home life. You know what I mean?
I mean, even Jerry Jones came out, after this whole situation, came up. And to take away from the situation, he wants us, to remember, Gruden for the history that he has in football, right? Not for the situations at play, right? Because that's the way they think, right? That's their mentality. Right. It's like we can't do wrong, we're a part of this, we're a part of the reason, for this game. So let's not forget him for his many accomplishments. With football, it's like,
hey, I'm a Cowboys fan, but I wish they would scrub Jerry Jones emails. We find some shit in there.
Straight up, he didn't give an opinion on it either, right? They tried to get him to say, "How do you feel about it?" And he said, "I'm not going to make a statement on it." But at the end of the day, we need to remember the impact that Gruden had on football, right? Because if you scrub his emails, you never know what come up.
The owners are definitely using that encrypted WhatsApp chat now.
Listen, this whole thing came about from a investigation on the Washington football team.
Yeah,
there's nothing that came about at all. Like you haven't heard anything about that investigation at all, but yeah, you hear about these emails.
Well, that was because it was a leak. Somebody in that investigation was probably like, "Whoa, this shit's odd," and I'm gonna drop this. You know what I mean? So it's
maybe the big fish is gonna come in a little while once they
I doubt it, man. Listen, right? Yeah. Listen, they work for the commission. Like the commissioner works for those guys, man. They got. There ain't no way that. First of all, Bruce Allen hasn't felt any of this. I'm sure Bruce Allen has, because he was sharing those pictures too. I'm sure, right? Yeah. And then Dan Snyder. I'm sure. There's something in Dan Snyder's emails. That's the reason why they did the investigation. From they said it's a hazardous workplace. Right, so I'm sure there's some things, but we haven't heard about any of that investigation at all. Nothing has come out about the investigation at all.
So you're pretty much saying there has to be a underlying story for Gruden shit to come out, right? There had to been a reason why they're coming at Gruden. I mean, why, right? Why did they go? I can't believe in the years, the decades, that the league been around. He's the only one with these, derogatory emails. He's not. Right? Like he's not the only owner. Well, he wasn't an owner, but he's not the only coach, that was attacking Goodell, for the decisions he made, with the supporting, BLM or whatever, allowing, as he said, the Q word, we don't want to use it like we said, allowing those type of individuals into the league, right? He forced the team to allow that person into the league. So he can't. He's not. We know he's not the only individual that's making these statements. Can't be the one. Right? So I mean, what's the reason why? Did he piss somebody off? Right. So
I think he was just the low hanging fruit. He might have been an easy one to take out quick. And I think it's going to be a. Well, first off, I was reading earlier. The Players Association want all of the emails.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they're going for all of them.
So whatever's in there gonna come out if that gets approved.
It's not.
But it may not. But
somebody getting paid behind the scenes to keep them.
Right now, they probably gonna end up missing somewhere. They're gonna disappear now. But yeah, I mean, even still, I mean, I don't know what. Well, I guess they probably could force some owners to sell some teams if the stuff in those emails were bad enough. We've already seen them force one owner to sell a team in Carolina. So I guess that's a serious penalty, but I don't think. Let's say if Dan Snyder was CC'd on the emails from Gruden, I don't think they would force him to sell the team based on those emails. Yeah, I think it's gonna take something stronger. It's gonna take some stronger content in the emails to get like an owner to have to like get rid of his team.
Oh yeah, I mean Dan Snyder would have to say these things.
Yeah, maybe he was like the N-word or something, or he ended naked pictures with the chicks. Then we might get him, but I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's interesting, and it's really more the same for us. Even as I listen to our conversation, we don't want to say queer. Right, we don't want to say faggot. We don't want to say any of those words. Right, right. And maybe because we're not of that community, but it seems like those words have much more power than even the word nigga. And based on circumstances like this,
but we haven't said that word either, though.
Maybe I didn't.
I didn't say that.
But I'm just speculating. But like I venture to say there would be more backlash if in those emails he used the word faggot than if he used the word nigger. And again, I'm speculating, but just based on the climate and how efficient that movement has been at effectuating change for whatever the reasons are, I would bet on me being right.
But those words were in the emails, right? Both of them. Faggot, queer, they both were. Right? He said the commissioner was a faggot. And then he said, he shouldn't have made the team, force the team to allow a queer to play, right? So, I mean, we already saw how it went, right? It was once those emails surfaced, that's when, we got to have a discussion with the team owner. and we need to talk about your position as a coach of the team. Not the previous email. He coached on Sunday. He was standing on the sideline with his team. You think he had the locker room at the time? Nah, no way.
Yeah, they did a dub, man. They ain't show up.
No way.
Right. I appreciate the fellas. If you're watching, please like, share, subscribe. Final thoughts. Corey, I need your final thoughts on the ranking.
On the ranking. Hey man, I'm just gonna say it's definitely a deduction on the ranking. It don't make you undateable. You still find a dude if you're a woman with kids. It don't make you undateable, but it lowers the ranking just a notch. I think for most men in general. That's general speaking.
And just to be clear, if she's a 10 and the baby run across the screen asking for his Apple Jacks, you still might give her a chance.
If she a 10, yeah. If she like
By
7,
standard, that's an 8. You good.
Right. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. If she a 7, nah. Like, lose my number. Yeah. You're breaking up. You're breaking up. Hey,
I gotta go.
Get him out of here.
Respect. Jimmy,
Yo,
final thoughts on Clark Kent being bisexual.
my thoughts, nothing against it. It's not for me. I'd rather just enjoy, superheroes being superheroes. We get the whole idea of inclusion, having some sort of representation on the screen. But some things that I don't personally agree with, right? Not against it. It's not for me, man. That's my thoughts.
You know this might be risky, right?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I get you. But that's my thoughts, right? Like I said, I'm not angered by it. I'm not upset about it. I saw the picture and then I read the headline about it. I actually didn't read the story. I actually thought it was Superman. I didn't know until later that it was his son. I didn't even know he had a son, to be honest.
Me neither.
So it's like,
nice.
How did that happen?
Yeah, like when did I guess my question is like when did the son come along, right? Motherfucker grew up overnight, man. But it's like did he just pop out and they use that to force a situation? Maybe he been there, but again, if he did have a son, how did he have a son? Sexualize the whole super. He had to have a kid with somebody, right? So at the end of the day, for me, it ain't for me. It ain't for me. That's it.
No doubt. Right? Final thoughts.
Loud and clear, Jimmy.
It ain't for me. Nothing against it. It ain't for me. We got the right for our opinion, right?
That's facts. Yeah. It might be risky, but you got it, bro.
Listen.
Against it, right? I'm gonna record that and put it as a sound effect. Dre, final thoughts on John Gruden and why he was led to resign. The whole 9 yards.
I think it was the proper thing to do to resign. I don't think she got fired because he wasn't with that organization at that point in time. I think he did a good thing in resigning to avoid a huge PR disaster. But the circumstances of behind him resigning, and I don't talk about the chronicling events, I don't necessarily agree with. I think if he was apologetic and sorry for what he actually did, he would have did it when the first emails would have came out, not when he got hit with all the other.
You good? Go ahead.
Oh, now we got hit with all the other accusations. Well, not accusations, but actual emails came out. So he got what he deserved, for sure.
Respect. You definitely lose points with me if you got kids. I ain't dating a woman with kids. I know how it is. I don't got time for that shit.
Super inconvenient, man.
Indeed, I know.
It is.
But now I'm married, so everything's everything. Um, in terms of Clark Gent, Sidney Kent, whatever he gonna change his name to, um, I don't agree. They pushing the agenda, something crazy, and nobody is a better superhero than Superman. He can do everything. So the one motherfucker that can do everything, now his son went the other way with it. I mean, it's a lot for me to consume. Um, and just my beliefs, how I feel internally. You know, I'm not even sure if people are born that way or not. I mean, it goes down. We can go down a rabbit hole, but um, I don't know. It's tough. It's tough to swallow, honestly. Um, and then for in terms of John Gruden, he's a devil. I mean, all that snarling and Chucky, like he turns red all the time. It makes sense to me. So, I'm not surprised. Every time I looked at him at a Raiders game, I'm like, this dude raced. Like that's the first thing that came to my head. And by golly, I was right. So, shout out to me being right.
Are you right? He didn't get fired. I mean, he didn't resign because he was racist.
Leave that part out. Let me be right for a second.
Just saying, we got to be clear about that. He didn't resign because
They
he was
still gave him
racist.
grace, right? They gave him the grace. So, shout out to Sean, who was once again unreliable.
Put him in the fucking bedroom. Get him out of here. Put him in the fucking bedroom. Get him out of here.
So it's kind of only right that he fell off the call.
That's right.
Man, we appreciate you guys for tuning in. We about to build this up. Topics on just about everything, relationships, and whatever else we could think of. It might be risky, so this is not going to be for the faint of heart. Even though it's not for me and all the other shit Jimmy was saying. So like, share, subscribe, and share the channel.